Drops of Ink. How many of you get excited when Drops of Ink comes out? Your school newspaper, yeah. Well, of course, the Drops of Ink staff does. So we're going to start off today for about 10 minutes or so for you to learn a little bit about behind the scenes of Drops of Ink, how it works, what that production cycle looks like. And then after that, we have our featured presenter today. So without further ado, I'm going to bring out our Drops of Ink staff, editors. Come on out. Good morning, everyone. Okay, I know we all look a little bit tired today, and I know you're probably here for a class, but so are we. We're so excited to be here to tell you about one of our favorite classes, Drops of Ink, and your student publication. So I think that we'll just start off with a little introduction. My name is Ashley Sanchez. I've been on staff 4 years now. I'm a senior, and I'm the editor-in-chief and photography manager of Drops of Ink.
I'm a junior, and I've been on staff for 3 years. And I'm the news and opinions editor. I'm Grace Jackman, and I'm a junior, and I've been on staff for 3 years. I'm the features and online manager.
I'm Sophie Lee. I'm a senior, and I've been on staff for 2 years, and I'm the sports editor.
I'm Luisa Magalhães. I'm a junior, been on staff for 3 years, and I'm the layout and design editor.
Okay, so we're here to try to tell you a little bit about our class and hopefully get you guys interested so maybe you can join next year or the years to come. So what exactly is DOI? As we said earlier, it stands for Drops of Ink, and we are, what we said earlier, your student publication. So we're the people that stand outside every entrance once a month and hand you guys newspapers that sometimes you read, sometimes you leave in the cafeteria. We have been around for almost 100 years now, and we're just a student-led class, which means that instead of turning in our work to a teacher, we turn it into each other for peer edits.
Okay, so a little bit about DOI Day. That's our distribution day, as Ashley said. So you'll find us around the entrances, and if you do happen to open the magazine, you'll see like a variety of different articles and writers and photographers and layout designers, and we hope that you do look at it. And yeah, there's a chance that you guys could be some of the future people on staff, which is exciting, and we hope that you do look at it because we do put a lot of effort into it, and yeah. Okay. So one of the aspects of DOI is the deadlines, and so they're very important, and very important to meet, and in order one of the aspects of meeting deadlines is collaborating and working with everyone, and also it's important to crowdsource and then one of the main aspects is writing, and there's many different stories that we offer. One is news, which is a little bit shorter and more factual. Another one is opinions, where you share your opinion, either your opinion or the opinion of the staff. There's also features, which are a little bit longer and more in-depth. And another one is sports, where you get to cover a variety of events and share about different sports. And then part of the writing is breaking news, which is you help cover a current event, and you have to make sure it's very timely and all that, so you have to get the article written in a timely manner so it's current and all that. And then another part of writing is the interviewing process. So there's many different parts of the interviewing process. one of which is like contacting who you're going to interview, and then also writing interview questions, and then just interviewing the person. And then it's very important to thank who you're going to be interviewing at the end of the interview, and even sending a follow-up email works too to thank them. And then just when you're writing the article, it's very important to incorporate interviews throughout.
Yeah, so that's what the day in the life of a writer looks like for DOI. As the photography manager, I will go over a day in the life of photographers because it's really fun. So right off the bat, she mentioned a little bit about coverages. We do get into school games for free to cover events. That means that I get to go on the sidelines, I get to take pictures of the games, I get to do all that fun stuff. So you get to pick your assignments, which means you could do whatever you want. You can write whatever story you want, you can take whatever photos you want, like revolving around the story. So a day in the life photographers would mainly be probably emailing people, hey, can I take a picture of you? Or just going anywhere around the school, anywhere outside of the school to take pictures of anything or anyone. And then typically you just go back to class. In class, we just have work time for like the whole period. Sometimes we'll have mini lessons. And you'll just write 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 sentences of contextual information about what your photo's about.
Okay, so the last part of like the magazine, putting it all together, is design. So here's the day in a life of a designer. Okay. There's like a lot of slides. So basically, design is the layout. The layout brings together the writing and the photos, and it puts it into like a really cool page with a bunch of colors, and it looks really pretty. And there's 3 main parts to layout: color, white space, and dimension. I think that's the color thing. The order they go in? Okay. First, we have colors. It is really important to choose a good color palette so that everything looks cohesive. And we can't have like 13 purple pages in the magazine. That doesn't look good. So there's a lot of communication going on with all of the staff to decide the layout colors. So for example, the one furthest on the left, yes, it's like all purple and yellow, and there's not like any other random colors. So there's not green thrown in there because that would look a little bit funky. The one in the middle, it's that color palette because that's the color palette of the TV show the opinion was about. And then the one furthest on the right, like it looks good, but the other page is not on there, but the second page was like reversed, so it was yellow then purple, so it like looks funky. You need to really think about how the pages flow together and how everything works. And then the next thing is white space. You really need to figure out how to fill up the white space because you need to work with your photos and like the graphic design and the writer to make sure there's enough space to fill up the page. So the one on the left, the headline is like really big and there's like the little clip art in the bottom and 2 photos and there's not a lot of white space going on. And it looks like the story fills up the entire page, which is great. And then this one, the white space is still filled up, but the headline, there's like a little bit of white space in the top, which is fine, but we're just trying to like stray away from that. And then the next is dimension. So like if you look at these, the ones on the right, there's like little water splashes, which makes the page more interesting to look at. And then the one in the middle has a bunch of different colors and it matches like the theme because it was like soul inspired and that's like the vibe. And then that was a back cover a couple of years ago and there's a lot of clip art, so it just makes it really interesting to look at. So basically layout, you just need to make sure the story looks appealing to the reader and it makes them want to look at it, because if it's just a plain boring page, you're not really going to want to read it.
Yeah, so before we start to transition, I just want to reiterate the fact that Ash touched on a little bit, where you have to work with your writers and your photographers if you are doing a layout. And as I said earlier, yes, your friends, your classmates are going to look over your work. So it's essentially, you have like this mini team for your story, and you all have to be in communication with each other nonstop to make sure that all your pieces like flow together, that the colors go with the theme, that the photos match the context of the story, and that the story can actually fit into the page. So now we're going to talk a little bit about what happens outside of the classroom, because DOI is not just a class, but it's also a club.
Okay. So, like I said before, I'm the sports editor, and a big part of that is editing sports coverages. So I think Ashley already touched on it, but essentially what coverages are, you can write, you can take photos, and you get to like go to different sporting events and just kind of do like live action coverages of what's going on, and it's really fun. You get to interview players, athletes, coaches, and you kind of just get to like either be on the sidelines or like, I don't know, right up on the court. It's really fun. Along with sports coverages, we also do fine arts. So like when we have orchestra concerts, band concerts, plays, musicals, people from Drops of Ink will do essentially what they do in a sports coverage, but for fine arts as well. And yeah, that's really fun, and we do 2 a semester, but a lot of writers and photographers end up doing more than 2. So.
Okay, so in terms of online, you're required to do 2 online stories each semester. So you can do a variety of different things. You can do like an actual article, or you can do like a video. Like in the past, we've done review videos, like Starbucks review, for example. And then like we can do quizzes. I know we've done like a Women's History Month quiz, which is fun. So you can you have total freedom, basically. And we posted on our Snow site, like the student newspapers online. So when you're in DOI, you'll kind of learn how to navigate that and And there's also like Best of Snow awards you can get, and like throughout the year, and then you're awarded if they like them, And then in terms of volunteering, so like throughout the year we can do like concession stands, like basketball concessions to earn money, but that's a part of it. And there's also volunteering for breaking news and just being an active staff member and putting yourself out there. And
Yeah, but we do have a lot of cool online stories like Grace mentioned. Starbucks review is one of them, Crumble Cookie review. We did one ranking the school water fountains. Interesting, a little funky, but we go with it. So check us out, lhsdoi.com.
So DOI does a lot of fun stuff. That is a picture of us on the field trip last year. We went to Kansas City. We went to Kansas City for a journalism convention, and it was really awesome. We got to spend a lot of time doing fun stuff together. Kansas City was a really cool city to just explore and be around, but we also got to learn a lot. So at the journalism convention, there are a bunch of different breakout sessions. So you can go to any of those that match with your interests. So for me, I really like sports writing, and I also really like writing about social and political issues. So I got to go to a few different breakout sessions that helped me write best in the areas that I like writing in. And you can take notes. It's really fun. I feel like that convention, I learned so much about writing and even about what I was interested in.
Okay, for story trips, that might sound a little confusing, but it's actually so much fun. So about a few weeks ago, we actually sent some of our classmates to go to a naval base to write a story and interview some people there to just see what it's like. And we just started doing these, I'd say. But we have the opportunity to be able to leave the school and to write stories and go on field trips to places for that.
Okay, so along with the story trip, we also go visit our printer, which is so much fun. Because our printer, his name is Jerome, he's amazing, he's awesome. So if you're on staff, you get to meet him and go on this really cool field trip. And then we don't always go outside of the state for conventions. This year we're going to DuPage and we're spending an entire day there and learning new stuff. So there is a field trip at least once a semester, and they're always so much fun.
Yeah, they are really fun. So I'm gonna talk about DOI Day. So like Ashley said, we're the people that kind of throw magazines at you when you walk into the school. Some of you are really good at avoiding us, so yikes. But DOI Day is really awesome because we pass out the magazines, and then as a class we all come together and we write compliments to each other about things that we thought other staffers and editors did well in the cycle. And we have a little compliment board. It's right there. Actually, there's no black space on the board anymore because it is just covered in compliments. But we usually do bagels. That's a little DOI Day tradition. What'd you say? Oh yeah, Shamrock Shakes when they're in season 2. But yeah, it's a really fun day that we get to spend as a class together, and yeah, it's awesome.
Okay, quickly as we wrap this up, do we have any questions at all? Yes.
Ashley, editors, so could you tell us a bit about the competitions and other opportunities we have to get our work recognized?
Okay, yes. So, Dr. Katzman has given us she'll send out competition things where you can enter your writing to potentially be published. I know our other editor-in-chief, Rishi, won a competition, and it's just a really awesome way to put your writing out there, write about whatever you're interested in, and potentially get published. So, yeah. Do we have any other questions? Yeah.
It's me again. I want to join DOI next year. What do I do?
This year we actually don't have an application anymore, so you can just go to your counselor's office and sign up for journalistic writing as your elective. It's a year-long course, and then you'll be officially a part of DOI.
Also, if you take it as a senior, you don't have to take another English class. It counts as your English credit. So, if you're interested in that.
All right, thank you so much, Drops of Ink staff. I appreciate it. All right. We have 2 Drops of Ink staff members who are going to be doing our interview for our featured guest today. So I'd like to welcome to the stage Arna Mishra and Andrew Schindler. All right, our guest today writes novels, essays, and screenplays on topics as wide-ranging as philosophy and creativity, gender metaphysics, second and third wave feminism, cults, grifters, and the American dream. She has published 2 novels and a short story collection. One novel, Confidence, was named a New York Times editor's pick. Awesome. And the other novel, The Come Down, was, the year it was published, one of the Washington Post's 50 notable works of fiction. The Come Down was also recently acquired for TV development by Sony Trident. Her collection of short stories, Bugsy, was longlisted for the 2024 Story Prize. She graduated from LHS in 2008 and now lives in Minneapolis with her wife and many animals. Please welcome Raf Frumkin.
Amazing. Thank you all so much for having me. Thank you for the lovely introduction. I'm Raf Frumkin. I'm so excited to be here with you all. Man, I just saw your nostalgia issue. I cannot wait to read it.
Really?
Like she said, I was a class of, I was here in the aughts, so I was class of 2008. When I saw the Hannah Montana on the cover, I was like, oh my gosh, Disney versus PBS. I'm very pumped to see what you guys have to say about it.
No, wait, that's our story.
You 2 wrote that? That's so cool. Oh man.
So we really hope you enjoy it because it's our story.
I'm so pumped. Well, can I ask you a question before you ask me a question?
Of course.
How did you decide on that story? The nostalgia.
Well, I suppose the cycle was nostalgia, and I was like, I want to write a story about PBS Kids because I really think that's like probably my favorite kids channel. But then Arna said, well, I think that Disney Channel is probably the best, and so then we were like, well, I think we should write a story trying to convince the reader which one is better.
I love that. Oh, it's almost like I'll take one side, you take the other.
Yeah.
a persuasive argument. Well, I remember when there was a new Disney Channel original movie every month. And I was like, I can't, how do they keep doing this? But anyway, excited to read. Thank you for having me.
Okay, awesome. So we heard that you have a passage from Bugsy that you're willing to read, and so if you could give us a little bit of background on that and then read a little passage, we would love that.
Oh, I'd be happy to. In fact, let me go actually grab the book. But as I'm doing that, I'll give you the background. So, folks, the book I'm getting, which Mr. Tooley, yeah, you're right by it. No, it's okay. So the book I'm getting is, this one's actually called Confidence. This is the one, the orange cover closest to the picture of me. And this is the book about grifters. So, are people here familiar with the concept of like a con artist or a grifter? Does anyone know what that is, what they do? You could raise your hand. You could say it. Yeah. What's a con artist? Exactly. And a huge part of scamming, scam artistry, con artistry, right, is deception. These folks are not telling the truth. So I thought, how interesting would it be to write a book about two con artists who are in a romantic relationship, okay? Because, man, if you're trying to, if you're in love with someone, you're trying to woo them, you're trying to win them over, ideally, you would tell them the truth, right? But this book explores what would happen if there's deception involved in that dynamic too. So I'm going to find the selection I'm going to read from. Would you mind holding on to this? Okay, so at this point in the book, here's what you've got to know. The con artists in question, they're named Ezra and Orson, okay? So Ezra's the point of view character. Did you guys read Great Gatsby yet? Oh, man. When you read it in American Lit class, pay close attention because Nick Carraway, the protagonist, all right, he's looking at Jay Gatsby and he's thinking, what an amazing guy. He's so fascinating. Who is that guy? And Jay Gatsby, he's not who he says he is. And that dynamic is what's happening in this book, okay? The Nick Carraway character, his name is Ezra. The Jay Gats character, sorry, spoiler alert. The Gatsby character, his name is Orson, okay? And at this point in the book, Orson is about to deceive an entire auditorium's worth of people. All right, he's going to, that's not what I'm doing, I promise. He's going to get up in front of a group of people and sell them the snake oil, give them the spiel. And Ezra is watching Orson do this. He's like, oh, I'm so in love. What an incredible man. And that's where we're kind of starting with this excerpt. All right. There was a buffet of fruit and croissants on several trundle carts in the back of the conference room at the Boyd, presided over by Pilar and Tori from housekeeping, both of whom hated me and Orson because we disrupted their nightly routine for what Carol was calling Orson's Secret to Happiness seminar. Pilar and Tori had also been tasked with bringing several ice-filled steel tubs loaded with beer, hard lemonade, and purified water down from the executive lounge. These tubs were to serve as the open bar, though the women Carol had rounded up for the seminar were all similar to her. Early to late middle age, trim, impeccably made up, and would likely not have wanted to waste their caloric count for the day on a can of hard lemonade. Pilar and Tori had to dig into the ice for bottles of Fiji water and hand them out with no hope of receiving tips. When I turned to them with an apologetic look, Tori ignored me and Pilar glared. Orson was wearing a custom-made suit Carol had bought for him for the occasion. You have to look your best, dear, so get something tailored and I'll pay for it. And he and I had come up with a set of talking points. His God-fearing father, his saintly mother, his hard-scrabbled childhood in the fields of Nebraska, his brother's cerebral palsy, his passion for economics and the law, his love of the free market economy, his mentorship of me, a former teenage delinquent. all fictional, of course. He was going to focus on the secret to happiness as he understood it, which was to work hard, to pray hard. He rehearsed the speech for me, and even though I could detect an undercurrent of nervousness, it had been suitably hypnotic. It was difficult to look away from him when he spoke, and it was even more difficult not to believe what he was saying. I felt like I was listening to an actual young Republican. When he stood behind the podium at the front of the room, shuffling a stack of index cards on which I'd scrupulously written nearly every word he planned to say, I winked at him. He smiled tentatively and winked back. Then he turned to survey the room. He was thinking about them now, not about me. Ladies, Orson said, and the murmuring in the room dropped a note before stopping altogether. Thank you for coming today, and a special thank you to Carol Argyros for organizing this event. My pleasure, Carol called, and swiveled to beam at the other women in the room. The genuine article, she crowed. Thank you, Carol. Orson knit his brows, pretending to think. I've had a difficult life, ladies, which makes me all the luckier for being able to stand in front of you today. You could say I've lived many lives. I've been a son, a brother, a student, a mentor. Here he turned to me, and I bowed my head reverentially. But by the grace of a higher power, I've had the privilege of being able to lift people out of difficult circumstances and set them on the right path. I've loved and I've lost, and I've done it all in the span of a couple decades. My friend Ezra, you could argue he's had it much more difficult than I have. I nodded. I could feel every set of eyes in the room on me. Ezra, tell me, what was the most difficult moment in your life? I sold drugs to a boy younger than me, I said. And he got very, very sick. Gasps. Ezra, what helped you back? Why, you did, Orson. And that's just the excerpt I'll read from you all there.
Well, thank you very much for that. And so the first question I have for you is more about the school. So one, when was the last time you were here at LHS? And two, how does it feel to be back at your old high school?
Those are fantastic questions. Those are very on my mind right now. The last time I was at, physically within LHS, oh man, I must have been a student. So it would have been 2008. I was just telling Mrs. LeMaistry that it feels like it's changed, it's beautified. But it might be the case that I'm seeing with such brand new eyes, seeing it every day. It looks like a different building. And the way it feels though, I mean, I guess it's kind of the same thing, right? It's sort of, when you're in high school, when you're in adolescence and you're kind of or any period of your life really, and you're doing what you do every day, you're going to the place, you're talking to the people you talk to every day, it can be easy to fall into a routine and then sort of forget the aspects of that routine that are actually pretty great. So that's kind of how I'm feeling. I'm like, oh, maybe when I was standing in that hallway, right, or standing in that classroom, I was like, oh, I've got so much homework, but now I'm standing here, I'm like, oh, the building's nice, it's nice to be back. So that is, it's a change of perspective. I think that's how I'm feeling.
So what were you like as a high schooler? What were you involved here at LHS? Or are there still some teachers that you may have had or heard of when you were here?
I was involved in DOI. I was big into DOI. With Mr. Tooley was the advisor at that point. I did Slant of Light at some point as well. I really enjoyed Slant of Light. But Joy was, I think, one of my main outlets. I remember he was a really good sport, Mr. Tooley. I was like, what I want to do is I want to do a history of the Iraq War. on the back cover of this, and at this point it was so far from being over. Mr. Tooley and the other editors, they were very kind. They were like, okay, we'll help you with this. And so we just did this long history. It's like the normal DOI. It's like, hey, what's going on at school? What are the opinions? What's happening? And then on the back, it's here's the U.S.'s involvement in Iraq. Here's what's been happening in the Middle East. It was interesting. The really great presentation that the editors just did had me thinking about how, reporting can take you to a lot of different places. And I was just sitting in a basement classroom, right, researching that. But it's really cool. You can also do reporting on stuff, in the area. So the fact that you all went to that naval base and are looking into more more stuff like that is extremely awesome. But yeah, that's what I was involved in mostly.
And how did that experience affect you in what you want to do as an adult?
You know, I would say those experiences impacted me really positively. Both like having them and kind of like interacting with like the other students having them and working with the teachers I worked with. So I was in Ms. Turdinsky's class, and it was a fantastic class because she introduced me to was it Oedipus Rex? She introduced me to Sophoclean tragedy. She introduced me to Greek tragedy, and it was sitting in that classroom, just a floor above from where we are right now, that I first thought, oh my gosh, like, I'm so interested in plot, and I'm so interested in emotion and stories, and it's so cool that I get to just like read this right here. And so I think that's like how that, you know, like working with the teachers I worked with, being in the clubs I was in, I got this sense of autonomy, like both like intellectual and creative autonomy, and I was like, oh, like I really kind of can just explore what I want to explore. And it was empowering.
So could you tell us a little bit about how you got from being a high schooler involved in Drops of Ink and Slant of Light and stuff to the eventual publication of your novels and becoming a professional writer?
That was a, yeah, that smash cut makes it look so impressive, right? It's like you cut straight from me in 007 down in this building to like, oh, like here's my book, you know. I will condense the story as best I can. I think it kind of, the sort of the seeds of creativity that were planted when I was so much younger and when I was involved in these really cool clubs at school and doing what I did in my early adolescence, those seeds were planted and they had to be tended to, right? So yes, I got lucky. I had some really great adults in my life, but I had to tend to them as well. So I had to develop a writing practice. And that is actually one word of advice I would give to all of you who are really like interested in, you know, writing books, writing for the screen, writing journalism. It is so important to develop a practice. And in order to develop a practice, you've got to take yourself seriously. That is step one. So, you know, I have a lot of friends, you know, both now and before in like graduate school and college who would be like, well, am I really a writer though? Like, I write and I like haven't really published anything. Am I a writer? It's like, I could tell you you're a writer until the cows come home. But if you are the one who has to believe it, and you can't just let, you know, like these sort of arbitrary determinations of the external, you know, whatever, like the powers that be, dictate to you whether or not you deserve a writing practice, right? It's something that you should embrace in yourself. If you feel that you're a writer, you're a writer. And so that's what I think, without kind of going through the practical history of how I got to where I got to, that's like the main, that was the battery, the fuel cell in my Energizer bunny. I was like, I believe I'm a writer. And I just kind of took myself seriously, as you all should. Please do, because it's fun. The gentleman the School of Rock guy, who was like, I keep a diary. It can help you like realize what's going on metaphysically and spiritually in your life. I was like, yeah, like, yes, School of Rock guy, that's correct. Anyway.
I know you kind of already touched on this, but is there any other advice you'd provide to us high schoolers who are looking to be published writers in any field whatsoever?
Yes. My biggest piece of advice is that here, I'll do it this way. The advice I always got right was like, embrace rejection, because writing comes with endless rejection. You'll get rejected 70,000 times before you finally get accepted. It's not that that's untrue. Of course that's true, right? Of course that you're going to experience the phenomenon of sending a story out and the editor says, no, thank you. Or, you know, sending a book out, right? The editor says, no, thank you. Trying to get an agent to represent the book to send to the editor. All these hoops you gotta jump through. Yes, rejection is part of the process. But I think that crucially, resistance is that's something you could actually have control over And that's something that I would encourage everyone to work on in themselves. What is resistance? Resistance is this idea that like everything worth getting is super hard and super impossible to get, and it's an uphill battle, and like, you know, well, maybe I have some talent, but not as much as that person, not as much as this person, or like maybe I could try to get this, but should I? Because like those people are really cool, they're really good writers. Listen, I've been there, and that internal resistance, oh, it holds you back, right? It can really just be the case that everyone can have a piece of the pie. It can be the case that it's not a constant uphill slog. Yeah, you're gonna come, you know, meet with hurdles, right? But it's not just endless hurdles unless you make it endless hurdles, right? By being like, maybe I'm bad, maybe I don't deserve this. Well, it's like, my gosh, you know, I run into this problem with some of my grad students where they would write these like gorgeous essays. But the very first paragraph would be like, literally, like in the essay would be like, I'm sorry if this sounds weird. Maybe this is wrong. Anyway, here's my incredible piece of nonfiction. And I was like, I'm gonna read this because, you know, I'm your teacher, I'm your professor. But like, if Joe Schmo just sees that in a magazine, he's gonna be like, oh, okay, well, I just won't read that. Because you've spent that first paragraph apologizing and reassuring me that maybe you're not terribly good, right? And so I would say getting rid of that resistance, part of it is having confidence.
So do you have a specific work or specific works that you are especially proud of, and why?
It's a tough question, right? Because it's like, I'm both like, I am proud of everything I've written, and I'm like, oh gosh, this thing that was published last year was written 5 years before, right? Because the publication process is slow, with books especially. And I'm already like light years past that. So it's kind of a mixture. It's like, I'm proud of confidence, of course, right? But I'm already on to the next project. So it's more like it's like a kid, and I'm like, well, no, it's not like a kid. I'd be very proud of my kids if I had them, but it's more like, this is a nostalgia thing. This is before your guys' time. It's more like a Neopet. It's more like one of those we had these keychains where we had to feed these digital beings, and they would die so easily. It's like a Sims creature almost. You're like, oh, like, good for you, and I created you in, you know, whatever, 2019, and I want you to have a nice, good life, and have already created 6 other Sims worlds. So, yeah, that's how I would answer that.
Andrew and Arno, you have 5 minutes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so can we talk a little bit about confidence and just, how did you originally get the idea for this book?
So this is actually, this is my pandemic book. It's kind of a joke among a lot of fiction writers. Like, this is my book I wrote when I was cooped up with the pandemic. This one is mine. And has anyone seen the documentary about, it's a cult. The cult is called Nexium, and the documentary is called The Vow. Has anyone heard of that documentary that was on HBO? It's okay if you haven't. No worries if you haven't. It was basically, the long story short is, it was a cult, but the front for the cult was called Executive Success Programs. Like, how to succeed in business, come take these classes with us, and you could learn about business. And people were like, oh, okay, I'll take these classes, and they got sucked into a cult. And it was like, woo, wow, that's some real deception there, that's some real scamming. So I saw that documentary, and I was cooped up in my pandemic brain. My friend and I were taking a walk, and I was like, what do you think, our generation being millennials, what do you think like a millennial-led cult would look like? What do you think the millennial cult leaders would be like? And that's how I got the idea for this. I was like, oh, like cult leaders in their early to mid-30s, you know, like how are they scamming people with this nonsense? So I wrote it after that.
So how have LGBTQ plus issues impacted your writing, and if so, how?
So, pretty profoundly. So this is a book about, as I'm sure you all could tell, like a gay, like a queer kind of romance at the center of it. And then Bugsy has a lot of LGBT adjacent themes. I would say my books. I used to joke my books get gayer and gayer. My books are more and more engaged in these kind of themes, but. The one I've just finished a rough draft of it hews really close to my personal experience, and my personal experience is as a person who is was like in high school and college, kind of figuring out I'm part of this community, right? And then I kind of went through the wild periscope of gender, and came out the other side, and I was like, ooh, like that was a wild life experience. And so that really impacted this next book.
We heard that you're writing a screenplay for Confidence. I'm sure there's only so much you can say, but what can you tell us?
It's so exhausting. It's really it's wonderful. It's super exciting to here's the really cool part is I'm writing with someone, and so I have I'm co-writing. And she's fantastic, and sort of interacting with her and approaching this, to approach the material in a new way, it enlivens it. So I wrote Confidence. This is over 5 years old now, from the genesis to the publication. And it's really cool to be let's write a screenplay, right? We've been commissioned to do this, and we're gonna do a whole new spin on it. We're gonna adapt it. So that's awesome, but the exhausting part is that deadlines are like that. Another thing that the DOI editors, you guys emphasize deadlines. Wait until you're writing an entire novel revision on deadline, a screenplay revision on deadline. It is crushing. It's a really quick turnaround, but it's okay because then you can just nap a lot the next day.
So, based on the time, this might be our last question, but why do you keep writing? What does it do for you, necessarily?
I keep writing because I have to write to understand. Just like the School of Rock gentleman said, I write to think through my life, and I hope that you move into the next period feeling great about that. Thank you.
Thank you very much.